Hi everyone, I thought I'd do a video on identity, particularly with relating to changes in identity to get an edge in trading. Um, and then I'll go over trading psychology relating to swing points in the market and justifying larger position sizes. Um, so first off, identity. Um, So I've found, um, for myself at least, that I've had bad a bad relationship with money and capital, and it's been brought on by or perpetuated by past experiences and learned experiences through my family and others that I've associated with, friends, work colleagues, people that you know in social groups like the gym or sports clubs, things like that. So, um, and also having, particularly with my mother, having a genuinely negative view of the world and um, and understanding things from a negative perspective or assuming that things are going to be negative. It's really conditioned my mind from when I was young to always view the world and view new things through a negative lens. So I've had to really condition myself, or I've had to consider why I've thought that way and how I can change it. And ultimately, I've come, I made the conclusion that those beliefs were not my own and they didn't serve me. And I have made a conscious and intentional effort to change that and change my identity around that, um, and shift into what I actually believe and what I actually see. So a simple example would be um, that you may fail at something. So let's say it's something at work and you make a mistake, and it may cost the company money, it may not, and it may be easy to rectify. The issue is some people may think, and rightly so, that I made a mistake, I failed. Alternatively, you could say I was incorrect in how I approached this situation, and now I know for future that this is the correct way to do things, and I've learned from it. So it's not always negative. There's positive in um, in errors. There's positive situations in a low point where you can learn from it and understand the the issues that are inherent in your own character, understanding character flaws. So that goes with trading as well. You may say, well, I got stopped out on a trade, um, and I failed at that entry. Alternatively, you could say, I got stopped out, um, and now I have the opportunity to learn to make an even better trade in the future. it's not necessarily that you failed, it's that you are going to do even better in the future. Um, Having an abundance mindset versus um, a lack, so um, like a famine mindset, is a huge one as well for me. So um, when I got back into trading in 2023, late 2023, I really did have the thinking that if I didn't secure big trades at key swing points, then I was a failure. And that mindset has persisted all the way through until late 2025. And it was a real problem with how I was approaching things. The way that I got around that was not actually worrying about things and just letting go. So not resisting. So allowing the universe, allowing God to teach me and show me my flaws, my lack of understanding, and not resisting the lessons, because that's what I was doing. I was resisting the lessons that I was being shown and being taught, and I was taking it personally. So, and then I took that on as a scarcity mindset, a famine mindset, and thinking there will be very limited opportunities in the future. And that conditioned my mind for a very long time. But then when I changed to an abundance mindset, it really conditioned my thoughts to think, where are future opportunities? How can I learn from this? How can I do better in the future? And I became a lot more positive. So it's a key fundamental shift in the way you perceive the world, the way that you understand it, and then the way that you engage and interact with things that happen day to day. And it is a conscious choice as well. You have to be open to things, and you have to consciously choose to be happy in the present. You know, the other thing that I learned is to be grateful and happy with what you have. So you could say to yourself, I don't have these things. I don't have the trading capital that I want. I don't have the life that I want. And then you're obviously you're approaching it in terms of these physical things determine your identity, determine your wealth, which is not the case. I had to shift this myself. So how I changed this was approaching it in terms of how wealthy I already was. So I have a beautiful relationship with my family and friends. I have, a really nice place to live in. I have a roof over my head. I get to eat 3 meals a day. I get to go to the gym. I have a very reliable car that does everything that I want. I can pay all my bills. And, you start to build upon those things, and the looking at it in terms of that, you are wealthy. You're not lacking. Not only that, you're wealthy in thought and in knowledge and in intelligence. Um, that's the other thing that I had to change as well. So it was it was a really big thing, um, really consciously making the choice to perceive the world in terms of abundance and not in terms of famine. Because there are always opportunities out there. It's just, it really depends upon if you have the eyes to see it and if you have the identity to see it and perceive it. That's the other big thing. But ultimately, the biggest thing I found is not being resistant to lessons that you need to learn, being open to things, and being positive all the time. Not saying to be positive in a toxic way, because life can be very bad and things can go wrong. But the point is, it's more resilience and stoicism. And that is really what builds character. So yeah, like I so the best example I can give is in April and May of this year, I really went in head first into trying to understand how to shift my identity. And the biggest way that I did that is with gratitude, being grateful, and also loving myself. So the thing that I also had a problem with is self-hate. So I did, and I hate to say it, I don't like to verbalize it, but I did hate myself. And it was a massive thing that I needed to change. And the way that I think of it now is, and I do truly love myself, not like a narcissist, but more like a family member would, or a loved one. You love yourself enough to do not necessarily the easiest thing, but the best thing for yourself, and give yourself a better life. And that means being more disciplined, you know, having a healthier lifestyle, healthier diet, healthier relationships, healthier work ethic, work-life balance as well, and not taking things too seriously, trying to block out or get rid of all the negative things in your life, all the distractions. And that's really loving yourself to go to that point where you would say, wow, I truly do care for you enough to make these conscious decisions to do the right thing, not the easiest thing. And that's really a fundamental shift that I've made recently as well. So yeah, it's the other thing that I had to do was cut out negative people, and or limit my exposure to them. So with family, I don't have anything to do with my father, and I haven't had anything to do with him for a very long time. many years. My mother, I have limited exposure to her because I love her, but the reality is, as I've discussed earlier in the video, she's very negative and views the world through a negative lens. So I choose my level of exposure to her because it significantly affects my mental state. And I found that with trading, particularly if I have too much exposure to her. What else? Negative people in your work. And that's a hard one to deal with. Obviously, you know, you have to use certain strategies because sometimes you can't, you have to work with them every day. But a current example for me is my gym. The people there at my current gym are very negative, or I had told them that I was trading and they perceived me to be an idiot, unfortunately, or they perceived that I couldn't do what I was telling them that I was going to do and wanting to do. And it became an issue to the point where they were always questioning me. And it really got me down. And I'm like, these people are not positive at all. And so I elected to change gyms, and I'm very happy that I did that because now I don't have to put up with or be exposed to that negative energy, because it's really a subconscious thing as well. You can identify it and feel it instinctually, even if it's not vocalized or physically exhibited, but it's still there under the surface, and you can feel that energy. So it's always best to limit exposure to any negative influences, any negative energy, and just cleaning your life up in general with regards to energy like that, and really only allowing positive energy into your life. I like the analogy of a garden and tending to your garden, the garden of the mind, where you wouldn't allow weeds to grow, and that's negative energy, negative thoughts, and that's really the mindset that I have now. But really, with getting into a flow state in late April, early May, I was really focused on gratitude, focused on affirmations, of being grateful, of being wealthy in myself, being happy in myself and myself, loving my life, and not wanting. That's the biggest thing as well, not wanting. Obviously being aspirational and understanding what you want, but not clinging on to that. That's the biggest thing. Not clinging on and wanting. It's more the point of knowing that you will get it, and then not focusing on that. That's the key thing. So I think I made the point about the 82K lower high, the macro lower high that was put in on the 6th of May. So I saw that before it was going to happen. It was a weekly FVG, and it hit 50% of that FVG and then stopped and rotated and put in a high low on the macro. I knew that was going to happen, and I felt it as though it was a future or a timeline that was different to the one that I was on. That's the biggest thing. Like, it was a perceived reality or a known reality that was different to my own. And it was very strange. It was as though I had been given divine knowledge of a future that was different to my own, that I could walk down, that I was able to touch. It felt like a flow state. It was as though everything was self-evident, and that the charts, how I viewed them, all the points in where my strategy worked was already self-evident, and I could view them easily. And it was down to just being grateful, being positive, and blocking out the negative things in my life. What else? Yeah, the other thing that I did was the daily practice of getting up immediately when I woke up early in the morning, say 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock, walking with my cat outside, and then looking at my phone and charting on my phone just basic levels on the 1 hour, the 4 hour, and the daily, and just doing that to get it into my subconscious before the day and priming my mind. So, and I really didn't have any distractions at that point. That's the other thing that I wanted to note. Managing your attention and paying your attention to something, it really is a spell, spelling. It really is a spell of paying attention. Your attention is paid to something that you're focusing on. You give energy to that, and then the subconscious, the ethereal, the spiritual, you give that energy to that, and it manifests into the physical. That's what I've found. So with this flow state, it was bridging the gap between the spiritual and the mental and the physical, and and that was the key thing. It was a very strange experience where it felt like that future was already predetermined, and that was the path that I was going down. Anyway, so it's a strange thing when you achieve that, but yeah, it's not something that you can get into easily. I found it more easy to get into it now by meditating. Guided meditation is very helpful, and cutting out distractions is huge. So YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all things that don't serve you, you really should cut out. And if you love yourself enough to give you the future that you want, that's the biggest one that I can say as well. It's very important. What else? But yeah, I'll post some resources that are very helpful, but definitely changing your identity, being positive, not allowing negative things into your life, changing your perception around capital and money, and being grateful and positive, and doing positive things, maintaining healthy relationships, maintaining a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle, and not taking things too seriously, and not resisting. That's the biggest one as well. Resistance. It will stop you from getting on the path that you need to be on for your ideal life. Also writing down. So the other issue that I had was writing down my preferred dimensional identity. So the identity that I had in my preferred dimension where I was achieving everything, I wrote all that down around a stick figure with the traits that I had in that preferred dimension versus the traits, the actual identity that I have now, with a stick figure with the traits that I have now. And it gives you a comparison to what you need to change and what's limiting you. And it's a really good strategy for self-reflection. So that's another good strategy for understanding limitation and blockages. What else? Yeah, I can't really think of anything else. I mean, and also having an identity of making a certain amount per month, let's say. So if you write that down, you write down what that version of you does, and then you understand what you have to do or what you have to change in your life. It's very helpful. It may not fix everything, but it gives you a framework for which you can become better. And that's the point. I have the view of becoming 1% better each day as well. So it's not feasible for most people to become better and completely shift their identity, completely shift their lives in a few days. It's not impossible, and it can definitely happen, but for most people it doesn't. So what I found is that doing things 1% better each day and having a consistent mindset is the bridge that will help you get from your current reality to your preferred reality. And that's the biggest thing: consistency and building that identity so that it becomes your subconscious, and then you don't have to think about it, and enjoying what you do. It's a really it's a difficult thing to start off with, but once you get going on the path, it becomes easier. Just like going to the gym or exercising. It's very hard to start off with, and there's a lot of resistance. But if you don't resist it and you just keep going and doing it, it becomes easier, and it molds you. It builds you into the person you need to be. So that's a big one as well. What else? Yeah, it is a difficult one. It's a difficult topic to think about. Shadow work is another one that people need to do. So you may have subconscious limiting beliefs caused by past events or trauma that wasn't that wasn't corrected or, I guess, finalized at the point in which it happened. So a big one for me is my relationship with my father. And especially when I was younger, when I was 18, 19, 20, like in my early 20s, I had the view that if I made a lot of money, and if I bought, say, when the Nissan GTR first came out in 2008, I was like, I'm going to buy that, and that'll impress him enough, and so he'll love me, or he'll accept me. And that was a really big driving factor for me when I was young, for acceptance. And that shadow part of me not feeling like I was good enough was a real limiting belief for a very long time. And that went into jobs, that went into relationships, that went into just work philosophy around certain things. And I really had to work through that. I don't think like that anymore, but I did for a very, very long time. And that's just one example of shadow work, a limiting subconscious belief that someone may have. There are many, many aspects to shadow work, but I would strongly suggest, if you're watching this, to look into that, because there may be things that you are not aware of that are limiting you in your trading path, and it may be stopping you from executing trades well. So that's a big one. But yeah, I think the point that I'm trying to make is that most of us have problems with our identity, and there is always a path to the most preferred future that we have in our minds. So visualizing the most preferred future where we're achieving our goals, we're living in abundance, we're doing everything that we want, we can help our families, we don't have problems with bills or anything, we have all the capital that we need, and we're living the best life. Understanding that identity, that person that lives in that future, and transitioning to that identity is the biggest thing that I've found has brought me success. So if you take anything out of this video, it'd be that understanding the person you want to be and then shifting towards that identity, and not resisting tests. You will be tested and things will come up, and understand that they are tests and that you are not failing. And if you understand it from that perspective, you will be able to shift into the new reality that you want. The last thing I'll talk about is goals. Writing down the 1-year goals that you have, just getting a whiteboard or writing it down on paper and having that for reference, dating that as well. And then just writing it down. and then seeing where it takes you. So, you may have an income that you want monthly and weekly, and just writing that down. You may have a spot position that you want to fill, and just writing that down. Weekly to-do lists are very good as well. Keeps you on track. But especially 1-year goals, writing that down. 5-year goals, you can do that as well. And then writing down an affirmation or affirmations, that's very strong. Visualizing your perfect future, or just an aspect of that future, and then living in that, and then knowing that you have it, not wanting it, but already knowing. That's the key point. This was the biggest distinction that I made with understanding how to bridge the gap between my current future and my preferred future. Knowing that I had already achieved it, and then not wanting it. So not grasping at it like I'm wanting it, but knowing that I had already achieved it. So, as I said, living in that abundance mindset, not the scarcity mindset, not famine mindset. And that's a big factor in bridging that gap. And it may not be apparent. You may not think you're making any progress. And then one day or 1 week, all of a sudden you make immense progress, because all of that work that you've put in previously builds up and accumulates. And then it's like a compound bow. You're building up that energy, storing it up until it's finally released. And then it releases in a massive energetic wave. And then you achieve huge things in a small amount of time. And it's a very strange thing, but it does happen. So that's another thing to really think about. Yeah. I will touch on psychology with key swing points, but I'm not going to do that in this video. I think I spoke about it in the intro, but I'm going to make that a separate video. I hope this helps. I'll put some resources in my philosophy channel as well, with changing your identity, but that's the biggest aspect that I've found that has helped me. And understanding what myself as a professional trader, a professional, successful, extremely profitable trader would do versus what I'm doing now. And also loving myself to be able to do the right things, not the easiest things. And that's really a big thing. Understanding those differences, and then trying to bridge the gap between the two. Well, I hope this helps, and I'll see you guys in the next one.